Hey guys, how you doing? Just getting home from work. Thought I'd do a quick video. What the heck? What else is new? I got one more day and then I get 2 beautiful days off. I'm going to enjoy the beach. I'm going to enjoy the sun and the women. Oh yes, it's going to be good. We're all set up here for something lovely. What's banging around in that head today? You know, I saw something that really got me thinking today. I saw this on Facebook or YouTube or one of these Reddit. I saw this picture of and it was just a picture of a dandelion, a plant growing out of a crack. You know, we've all seen this. You see a plant growing out of a crack in the concrete. You know, I'm just seeing some right here. You know, walking down the street. And what that tells you is that plants have this resiliency, right? That they have this, the force of nature really is going to, plants are going to grow in places where plants simply should not be growing, amongst the concrete. It's going to break through, and it's actually going to manage to find itself out. And this got me thinking, of course, about how this relates to the subject that I talk about the most on this channel, which is capitalism. And how a capitalist will look at a plant that has burst through the concrete and proclaim, see, look, that plant burst through the concrete. That must mean laying concrete is the best for plants. That's the best system to grow plants, is to lay concrete, because one plant burst through. See? If that plant can do it, so can other plants. This is the logic of the capitalist, that it can't certainly be that it's simply the resilience and the force of nature, or in the case of capitalism, of humanity, which is a force of nature, that has grown through the system in spite of the system, not because of the system. That humanity is stronger than the capitalist system we live under. And so every so often and occasionally, someone is able to punch through and actually become more than the system wants it to be. And I can't be more clear about my opinion of capitalism on this channel, which is that it's a complete failure. It doesn't work. It's designed to collapse. All of the information that it says about other systems are lies and propaganda, and I include communism, right? I'm a communist. I don't buy in to if a capitalist is talking, he's lying, period. It really is that simple now. And if you listen to someone who is defending capitalism, you have to assume he's either extremely stupid or a complete fraud and a liar. And there really is no other place to be if you're defending capitalism at this point. Like, it's a complete farce. It's a total fraud. And I just feel like people don't know what to do about it. That's really what it's coming down to at this stage. People just don't know what to do about it. I think most people do know and do see that the capitalist system has failed, right? It's not that it's failing, it's that it has failed. That most of the European nations, as well as here in Canada, because I live in Toronto, in Canada, when the COVID crisis hit, we all abandoned capitalism and immediately looked to other non-capitalist solutions, because capitalism can't solve problems like that. It doesn't solve the problems it generates. Capitalism generates problems. Capitalism doesn't solve problems, right? It solves problems for one small group of people by creating massive problems for everyone else, right? So, how can I do no work? Asks the capitalist. Oh, I know, I'll enslave a group of people. How can I get some land? Asked the capitalist. Oh, I know, I'll destroy a people and steal their land. This is how capitalism solves problems. Which flows right into something I've been thinking about more and more. And I really need to do more research because I really want to be able to talk on this point with much more clarity. Because right now I'm just running on kind of a hunch, on a hypothesis, so to speak, which is that capitalism and fascism are the same system. That the distinction that has been made is one that is an assumed assumption, right? So anytime I've seen any kind of scholarship on, well, what is fascism, right? Like, which, that's a fine question to ask. What is fascism? The assumption in the question is that fascism is a different system than capitalism. And so what the scholars end up doing is they end up analyzing fascism, and they come up with a whole bunch of reasons for why. Oh well, these are the signs of fascism, and this list is what seems to be indicative of fascist societies. And then when I look at the list, and I look at history and the history of capitalism, which isn't long. Like, the history of capitalism is like 200 years. Like, it's not 300, like 400 years if you really, really want to push it. The history of capitalism isn't that old, right? It's hasn't been around that long. But when you look at the history of capitalism, and you look at these lists, like there's the famous one. There's like the 14 signs of fascism in your society. And it has things on the list like ongoing patriotism or nationalism, disdain for the arts, right? And you go down this list and you really, I really begin to see capitalists do that, right? Like, capitalism does this. I don't, what are you talking about? Like, how is this a strictly a fascist thing? Like, and point for point, you can see pretty clearly that no, capitalists do that too. And I begin to realize as I kind of do this research that the scholars are just assuming that there's a difference in the system because Mussolini and Hitler created a distinction where none existed. Because Mussolini and Hitler and this group, they weren't economists, right? So when they wrote their documents, like Mein Kampf, Hitler was an artist, right? So he wrote his document Mein Kampf, and the scholars will treat Mein Kampf as a document that rests separate from capitalism. It is a fascist document. But I have come to understand it as it is an extension of capitalism. It is a very capitalist document. It is a document written by a capitalist, by a pro-capitalist artist. That's really what it is. And that it doesn't rest in contradiction to authors like Adam Smith, who is a capitalist author and a capitalist economist. It doesn't rest separate from that. It augments it. It gives you more information about the capitalist system you live in. It doesn't contradict it. It's just that it comes from a philosophical position as opposed to an economic one. And I feel like once you kind of realize that, once you come to grips with the fact that capitalism and fascism are the same system, and they always have been the same system, it becomes much easier to sort of see what's happening in the world around you, right? Like, the line I always like to say is like, yeah, the Nazis lost, but fascists won, right? The fascism won. And and I always hear people say like, oh, we're decaying into fascism. And I'm like, we're not decaying into fascism. Like, we've always, like, if you're a black person living in America, you're well aware that you live in a fascist society. And you've always known that. right? Any gains that that community has made in America have been through incredible effort and toil and sacrifice. In some cases, the lives. Like Martin Luther King was assassinated by the United States government, right? For attempting to improve the lives of black people in his country. There's no, like, black people are aware that they live in a white supremacist society that is fascist, for sure. It's just white people that are coming around on it. And white people are starting to say things like, oh, we're decaying into fascism. No, you're not decaying into fascism. It's just that now you're becoming one of the victims, right? Like that old poem, right? Like, first they came for the socialists and I did nothing because I wasn't a socialist. First they came for the Jews and I wasn't a Jew, so I said nothing. And then they came for me and there was no one left. And that's exactly, this is the process of capitalism and fascism. Capitalism. Yeah, there you go. There's the name. That's there. I'm going to put a little TM, right? I'm going to put a little registered trademark circle. Capitalism, right? Which makes sense because capitalists, all they really do is mentally masturbate. They're not smart people or particularly intelligent. They're just well placed in history. They're very lucky to have been born in the position that they've been born into. And they refuse to acknowledge that, believing instead in their false meritocracy, right? Which is just this, like, what are you even talking about? If you believe in the meritocracy, you're literally saying that your own effort supersedes the efforts of the entire history of the universe, all forces within the universe, and then all of human history. That's literally what you're saying. That a single individual can, with the force of their own will, subvert the will of God. That's what believing in a meritocracy is. Shut up. You're fucking stupid if that's what you think. Like, really, really fundamentally stupid. To believe that a single person's effort can overwhelm the force of all creation. Like, what are you even talking about? I'm sure that you can believe that if you are delusional, that oh well, that guy's working awfully hard. Everyone's working awfully hard at their thing, right? Everyone's working awfully hard at their thing. It just looks impressive because they have a skill set you don't, right? That's all. Like, they'll always use sports. Sports is always the analogy that gets used with the meritocracy, right? They'll say something idiotic like, oh, it's the team that trained hardest and did the best, right? Completely ignoring that to even get on the team in the first place, you need to have been born with a set of physical attributes, right? You're not getting on a basketball court unless you're one of two types of people, right? You're 7 feet tall. Sorry, not every basketball player is 7 feet tall. If you're over 6 feet tall, you can be a basketball player. Or if you're one of those very, very special basketball players who have that very specific subset of skills that exist that you have to be born with, right? Like, I'm thinking of a guy like Muggsy Malone or something, who's like, he's one of those very few, like, under 6 feet guys, but he just had this magical ability built into him, right? Every other basketball player is over 6 feet tall. And if you're not 6 feet tall, you're not a basketball player, right? Statistically, that's just mainly the truth, right? You got outliers like Muggsy, right? But if you're not 6 feet tall, you're not a basketball player. And you don't train hard for that. You're not working hard to be a basketball player, right? You either are that height or you are not, and that is a random choice of your birth, right? Like, a person who's 5 feet tall is not a basketball player and never will be. Period. It's just not going to happen. Like, move on. Find another thing. And people who delude themselves into believing in the meritocracy will never acknowledge this. And it's just simply completely outside And if they do acknowledge it, it's in this like, yes, yes, yes. But now that we exclude them from the system, we can forget about them because they're non-people. They don't matter. They can go die in a hole. Because this is what capitalists do with problems. They just externalize them. They externalize problems. They put them outside of this little wall they create around this ideology that is false and demonic in many ways. Oh man, the demonic nature of capitalism. Like, why do you think they keep saying you've got to vote for the lesser of two evils? That's something that demons would say, right? Moloch and Beelzebub are going to have an election. You've got to vote for the one you think is the lesser. It's like, no, the whole system is run by demons. Like, that whole system needs to go away. It needs to be washed away. It needs to be cleansed. Like, the society needs to be cleansed of capitalism. Like, it's not a system that has any, like, there are no redeeming qualities in capitalism, right? And what capitalists will do is they will take the successes of socialists and communists in the society, the successes of unions and the successes that have been fought hard against capitalists, and then they will just claim them as their own. Because the only thing capitalists are actually good at doing is lying. Propaganda is the only thing that a capitalist is actually good at. And the faster you realize that, and the sooner you realize that, and the quicker you realize that a capitalist is A, always lying to you, and then B, is exceptionally good at lying to you, the faster you'll be able to sniff their lie out and figure out what it is they're lying about. Like, for example, recently, people like guys like Jordan Peterson were walking around being like, oh, poverty has been reduced more efficiently than any other, capitalism has reduced poverty faster than any other system ever. It's a total lie. You look at the reports that they're actually citing, they just make up arbitrary numbers that are attached to nothing, have nothing to do with anything. There was an article recently written debunking this entire thing. Did it come out of the UN? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is that the capitalists will say, like, capitalism reduces poverty more than any other system with these numbers I completely made up, are attached to nothing. Oh, and I'm just going to ignore China, right? Like, you can claim that it's capitalism's success that it's reduced poverty as long as you claim the success of communist China as your own, right? Yeah, world poverty is reduced. Well, the second you take China out of those figures, no, it hasn't. Not even a little, right? So the system that we're lying. Hey, Ryan, how you doing, bud? So the capitalists are just straight up lying. They're just lying right directly to your face, right? These guys are literally guys who will, like, grab a 6-year-old child and throw them into a lithium mine to dig lithium out with their hands and then sort through it so that they can drive around in Teslas and pretend like they care about the environment, and then make the claim that, yeah, that helped them. Like, the absolute delusional detachment of this class of people who are incapable of seeing the truth, right? They're so far gone. They're so far into this realm of delusional madness and where they don't need to know what the truth is because they're rich, right? They show up in $10,000 suits to tell you how much better they are than you because they were born rich and you weren't. That's really what it comes down to. That in the end, their ideology is a new kind of restatement of the divine right of kings. I was born rich, and so obviously I must be a better person. You were born poor, so obviously you must be an inferior person. And there's a lot of that going around right now. I mean, you see what's going on in the States with their whole thing is the strong will survive. That's their whole thing. They might as well put that on the front door of the White House, right? They might as well put that on the flag. Like, the strong will survive. There's this real, like, hateful sort of ideology going on. And white people are starting to notice it because it's starting to actually matter to them, right? Black people and Latino people have known it this whole time, right? It's impossible to avoid, right? You if you have family who was enslaved, you know pretty clearly that the society you live in is fascist. It's just that now the capitalists are starting to no longer protect white people, and they're starting to abandon white people, and they're starting to consolidate more and more wealth and power under the small group of families who have always held wealth and power in the society. Like here in Canada, for God's sakes, the wealthiest man in Canada is named David Thompson, and he is his official title is the third Baron of Fleet. He is monarchy. He was born a billionaire. And you want to come at me with this meritocracy bullshit? Like, you're delusional. You're out a lot. You're out to lunch. Like, you're just out to lunch. And so this guy has always been the wealthiest Canadian. Like, his family has always been the wealthiest family, and he's just going to continue that way. And he does no work. He doesn't do anything, right? Like, once you have $1 billion, you just hire other people to run your stuff for you, and you just go off and do what you want, right? Like, you're not gonna, like, if you show up, it's because, you know, you care to show up and you kind of want to poke around and see what's what. But like, a guy like Jeff Bezos isn't running anything. Like, he's just going to his one of his $1 million mansions wherever he lives and just doing what he wants there, right? He doesn't care about Amazon. Amazon runs itself as far as he's concerned at this point, right? That company can't lose money. Like, he now has so much money that he could not lose that money. Like, it's not possible for him it's not possible for the line to decline ever again, right? He's reached that kind of wealth. And I think at this stage in the game, if you're going to stand up and defend capitalism, I think you're either completely delusional and stupid, or you are evil. Like a guy like Kevin O'Leary. Like, I recently saw Kevin O'Leary on a CNN report thing, and he was peddling the old, like, capitalism's the best system and all that kind of stuff. And that's just because Kevin O'Leary is evil, right? Like, and I used to be one of these suckers who thought that, oh, he's just playing this character. No, he's not. Like, he genuinely, like, if you put him in a room with someone and a gun, and there were no cameras, and you told him, and you just said, whichever one of you guys comes out of here, you're going to have $1 million, no questions asked. He'd just pick up the gun and he'd shoot the guy. He wouldn't even think about it, right? Like, Kevin O'Leary doesn't give a fuck about anybody but himself. And that's just, capitalism rewards the most sociopathic, psychopathic, evil people in the society, right? Like, take a look at Zuckerberg, right? Like, the owner of Facebook. It's well known, right? He had a group of people he was working with in order to build this company, and he had the opportunity to betray them and shunt them to the side, and he took it. And he's been well rewarded for it by the capitalist system, right? And you can see you can literally look at that guy and you can see the toll that it's obviously taken on him. Like, he looks inhuman. He looks demonic because he sold his soul, and he bears that weight, the weight of selling your soul. And like a guy like Jeff Bezos, I mean, the guy looks like Lex Luthor, for Christ's sakes. Like, he looks like this maniacal billionaire, because he is a maniacal billionaire, right? You don't remove the health care from your workers who are trying to just get better benefits and better wages for themselves if you're a good person, right? And honestly, you don't become a billionaire if you're a good person. I just think, like, I've told this story a bunch of times on this channel, but I think it's always worth reiterating, right? Go watch a couple of episodes of Futurama with the character Mom. It's absolutely crucial. Mom is exactly what corporate capitalism is, right? She owns a robot company. She makes robots, and she comes out and she's got this lovely Victorian dress on, very mumsy looking, right? Very, very dainty and quaint. She just looks like a sweet old grandmother, and she talks like this, and it's like, oh, dearest me, I do hope that everything is okay, right? And then the second she gets behind closed doors, where there's no cameras and there's no public or anything like this, the Victorian outfit actually opens up. It's a robot suit, right? Like an Iron Man suit. And she steps out of it, and she's this shriveled, lithe crone of a woman who's just screaming at people and slapping her sons, and she's just obviously evil, and she's constantly scheming on how to hurt people and cause problems for people. And that's every CEO, that's every billionaire in America. When the cameras are on, they're like Bill Gates being like, oh yeah, I guess, oh, everything, I really do care and everything's great. But then behind the scenes, they're just trying to create a private Medicare system so that they can charge $10,000 for a $1 vial of whatever, right? Like these people are not good. They're not trying to help you. They're trying to maintain their own positions of power and prestige. And they're trying to create legacy dynasties for themselves, because this is how they will attempt to find immortality for themselves, right? They know that they themselves cannot be immortal, even though I'm sure they're looking into how. And so they pass their immortality on to their sons and their daughters, right? They become people like David Thompson, who's the third Baron of Fleet, right? Born a billionaire. Like Bill Gates' children are going to be billionaires. They're born billionaires. Yeah, he said, I'm not going to leave any money to them. Sure, Bill. Like, sure. I guarantee that if Bill Gates' son came up to him and said, hey, Dad, I want to start a t-shirt company, Bill Gates is going to be like, okay, great, here's $1 billion, get started. Right? Like, are you kidding me? What a joke that is. And we all just gullibly like, oh yeah, Bill Gates, he's not leaving any money to his children. Oh yeah, I believe that. Go. Like, we're a bunch. And this is the bottom line on it, right? And I always leave off on this. Boy, are we fucking gullible. Boy, are we fucking gullible. Holy shit, are we ever the most gullible people on the planet, right? We're lied to constantly and consistently, and over again we're lied to by the same people, the same companies, the same organizations, constantly and consistently peddle nothing but bullshit lies to us. And every so often we go, hey, that doesn't sound right, and then we're on to the next thing, because for some reason we keep listening to these hacks, these total frauds, these total liars, these people with zero credibility who seem to have us enthralled. Like, we seem like it's like they're a vampire and we're just a victim who has been enthralled by them, and we can't seem to shake it. And every so often we're like, wait, that doesn't seem to make any sense. And then before we know it, we're on to the next issue, and we can't. And for some reason, we still believe that. We start by always regurgitating the nonsense that they say as if it has any credibility, instead of saying, did you hear what this fucking loser said? That's how we should start every single conversation. If you hear it from the CBC, MSNBC, ABC, Fox News, Vice, if you hear it from any organization that is owned by any corporate entity, you should begin with, you hear what these liars are saying? Man, listen to what the liars are saying. Man, it kind of sounds sort of truthy in a sort of way, but there's definitely lies in there for sure. And that's how we should be beginning these conversations. We should be beginning the conversations by saying, man, the liars are saying this. What do we think about what the liars are saying? But that's not how we begin the conversation, right? We begin the conversation by saying, like, oh, well, this was reported in this call. Well, maybe it might be very interesting. No, it's not. They're liars. They begin by lying to you. Like, we should assume that they're lying, and if they ever do tell the truth, then we should be impressed. We should be very impressed. I've never been impressed by the media, not once in my whole life, because all they do is lie. And we, gullible idiots that we are just like, oh, that's delicious. Oh, it's so delicious, the gullible bullshit that we eat. I just wish we were smarter. Anyway, half hour, big long one. You guys have yourselves a good day. I hope you're having fun out there. Get laid, have a drink, have a smoke, do all the things. Try to, I don't know, smile, punch a Nazi, hug a bear. Have a good one, guys.